think.
Please changing the slide.
Sorry?
Okay, good. Very good.
Yes, okay, yeah. Presentation mode is on. And I also put my little virtual laser pointer here. Okay, cool. Super. So I already introduced a little bit of my motivation before I go into the presentation. I briefly want to tell you a little bit more about who I am. So thanks a lot for the very kind introduction. I will just repeat a little bit of that, but then go into some facets that I think are particularly interested also for you as early career scholars.
Okay.
Mainly, what is this network for emerging scholars in tourism and hospitality management? That might be interesting for you. Okay, so I have started as assistant professor. So in Copenhagen, we have the Anglo-American system, assistant, associate, and full professor. I started in 2018 as assistant professor, then became associate professor, and now I'm a professor and serve as the director of our tourism research center at Copenhagen Business School. We are one of the biggest business schools in Europe. I think at the moment we're the second biggest one. We have about 21,000 students only in business. So that does not even include adjacent disciplines like economics. So for us, it's all about business. And it was about 100 years ago that we were sort of outsourced from the University of Copenhagen. So we are a university, we are a public university, one of only seven universities in Denmark, and we grew quite big for it. A business faculty, you can say, that is now its own university. I'm also a Carlsberg Foundation fellow in, you might have heard about Carlsberg. It's one of the biggest breweries in the world. That's not what I mean here. But Carlsberg is also a very big foundation, and I'm one of their fellows, which means that they have endowed me with generous funding, and I have hired a research team mostly to examine the role of coolness in business and society with a focus on tourism and hospitality. So some of you might have already came across some of my publications, and one actually is on coolness that I published in 2021 in tourism management. We have a bunch of additional research going on in that area. So that is a research team that I built with the generous funding from that Carlsberg Foundation.
Okay, Florian, I'm sorry to interfere this one, but it is important keyword, Carlsberg. Actually, the Carlsberg beer. Have you seen before the Korean style, the bomb mixed with the Korean alcohol soju and beer together, and the mixture, and drink one shot? Have you seen that before?
Sounds interesting. No, I have not come across this.
Okay, you have not experienced yet. The Carlsberg is very famous beer in the world, and the famous one is a soju from Korea. If you have by chance to mix Korean soju and Carlsberg together in a pitcher, it's a fantastic. So you should drink it and experience it. That's the very genuine Korean style.
Okay, so another reason to come to Korea.
Oh, you have a very good restaurant in Copenhagen.
Oh, a Korean?
Yes, Korean restaurant in Copenhagen. There is a fantastic Korean the samgyeopsal with the Carlsberg and soju together.
Okay, good to know. Well, I have not heard about that.
Okay, sorry, keep going.
No, that was interesting information I did not know about. Thanks. Okay, I move on. Maybe before I do it, just a little bit also about my academic background. As you can probably hear by my accent, I'm a German by origin. Actually, I have some Norwegian origin in my family, but nevertheless born born in Germany, and I started my bachelor's in Germany, but then actually went on still to a German-speaking country, to Vienna, Wirtschaftsuniversität Vienna, where I also studied. I studied at Copenhagen Business School before. I studied in Australia, in Melbourne, at the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology. And also during my PhD, I was a visiting researcher at the University of Michigan in the US, in Ann Arbor. So
Great.
I've worked in a couple of different different areas, different continents, but not in Asia, right? As you can see. So North America, Australia, and Europe, but not Asia so far. So but of course I have worked with many colleagues from different countries in Asia. Okay, I'm mostly focused on tourism and hospitality management. I'm a consumer researcher. I'm mostly coming from a psychological point of view. That was also what my PhD was based in, mostly evolutionary and social psychology. That's why you could read on my short bio that I'm using a lot of biology research. And why do I emphasize it now? Because I come back to that later today when I talk about idea generation, because I consider merging disciplines, even disciplines that are as distant as biology and tourism. We can sometimes create really interesting studies by understanding what's going on in one discipline and how can that be used in our discipline, tourism, hospitality management. Of course, I'm also working in international marketing. I'm teaching a lot of international marketing at Copenhagen Business School, working with emotions, biases, attitudes, motives. So these are all the psychological terms mostly coming from social psychology. I'm mostly using quantitative methods, experiments, and survey-based. That's how I was trained. Also in the more classic way, structural equation modeling, whether it's covariance-based, whether it's Bayesian moderation, mediation analysis. So that's usually my traditional toolbox. But as you could probably also see in more recent tourism publications, especially Annals is pushing quite a lot for experimental methods. I think you had also my colleague Gianpaolo in one of your seminars, right? He's also one endorsing experimental methods quite a lot, and this is something I can definitely second. All right. Just a little bit about this Center for Tourism and Hospitality Management that I'm chairing at CDS. That is a center that has about 15 members at the moment that come from different departments, right? As you know, tourism is not only multidisciplinary, but also in many cases interdisciplinary. So we have colleagues from the Department of Marketing, where I'm based, but also Department of Digitalization, Department of Communication, Department of Politics, and they are all find a common home, so to speak, in the Center for Tourism and Hospitality Management, where we cluster all our tourism and hospitality research activities. We have PhD students in that area. We also have a tourism master program that is a sustainable tourism and hospitality management. It's one of our key strategic pillars at Copenhagen Business School, sustainability, and how we can especially implement that in an area of tourism and hospitality, which of course is an industry that has a rather large CO2 footprint, you can say, also because by its big size, right? 1 in 10 people employed around the world are employed in our industry. So that's also a responsibility for us as researchers. Good. Now, just very briefly, and then I go directly to my presentation, but I think this can be interesting to you, and that is the NEST. And the NEST stands for the Network of Emerging Scholars in Tourism and Hospitality. And I received some generous funding, not from Carlsberg, from a different organization. And I have used that money to found a network And in that network, we have members which are very talented, very ambitious, early career scholars, and we invite them for talks. We invite them also to Copenhagen. We had our first conference in Copenhagen in the beginning of April, where we also pay then for our members to come. So we pay for their accommodation, we pay for their flights, because we know often as a PhD student, your funds are limited. So we give them the opportunity to meet other like-minded early career scholars and also to meet senior scholars, because in this nest we also have a number of senior fellows. For example, we have Scott McCabe, who is, as you know, the editor of Annals of Tourism Research. He is a senior fellow of the nest. We also have, for example, Albert Asser from University of Massachusetts. We have Brian King. We have East Tusadjai, the head of the Tourism Hospitality School at University of Surrey. We have Xavier Font, the editor of Sustainable Tourism, and so on and so on. So I think it's a great platform. And why do I say this to you now? Because we're still on the lookout for new members. And
Okay, please put my name on your nest.
as a fellow, I was going to approach you in that regard,
Okay,
Jonathan. So definitely.
Can I now engaged?
Exactly.
Okay.
So if you think that could be interesting for you, either as a fellow or as a member. So usually we define a member as someone who is in an early career stage, which is a PhD student or assistant professor, postdoc, lecturer. So this is
actually, I was going to send one scholar, my PhD students, to you, but your email reply a little bit late. So I send her to Giampaolo, the University of Portsmouth in England, instead of you.
that was okay. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry for that, but next student.
That would be good. Yeah. I could see from her profile that she has already published very well. That was really impressive.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly. We're looking for these kinds of students. At the moment, we have 18 early career scholars coming, I think, from 15 different countries. So quite international. And we want to grow the nest. We want to grow the nest. We have funding, and we are already planning our next conference for 2025. And maybe we can also welcome a new member from Korea, for example. So just that you have heard about it. If you want to get more information, just reach out to me. Looking forward to hearing from you. Okay, enough about this. More about the quest for impact, I actually call it. So I don't even use the word research question here, but in the end, that's what it is. If you have a well-done study and you spend 4 years on it and it has the best experiment, Giampaolo will like it, but he will also say, as I would say, well, it's only as good as the research question you're going to answer with your very sophisticated big data set, great methodology, great writing, and whatsoever. As a reviewer, I receive so many papers that are very well executed, but the initial idea was just boring. And these are then papers that are not original, that are not interesting, and they are not relevant in most cases for the readership of the journal. So when I review for the big three, actually also for others, I'm also reviewing for Journal of Sustainable Tourism or for our big journals in hospitality like Horseman or Contemporary. I always ask myself, is that actually relevant for a broader audience in that journal? And if you work on a very small niche or on something that has already been examined in 25 studies, the bar is already higher to convince me that what you do is really relevant, original, and interesting. And now, why is that so important? Because only then, if you have checked these boxes, especially the relevance and the originality, you can have impact with our research. And that's really what counts. So at CBS, yes, it's important and it's expected that we publish on the highest level, but it's only a means to the end in the sense that we have to show impact with our research, impact on the research community, impact on businesses, and impact on society, right? And we consider good research ideas and good publications as the foundation of it. So having a great or a good publication is not the end of the journey, it's the beginning, because it allows you to have impact. So you can see already a lot of buzzwords here in my title, and I will do my best to fill them with a meaning in the next 45 minutes or hour. Let's see. How much time do I have, by the way?
You left 1.5 hours. Don't worry about it. Plenty of time.
Perfect. Yeah. I think you were very generous scheduling 2 hours. Usually I have to rush because people only give me like 45 minutes, so 2 hours is great. Thanks.
I'm sorry I'm abusing you. You just
okay. Let's jump into it. Okay. More tourism journals. This is my observation, and I can see that is not only my very own opinion when I talk to people, but more tourism journals publish more and more papers. I think I remember Bob McKershaw publishing a piece some years ago where he already estimated the number of tourism journals to be around 400, and that was some years ago. So maybe we are probably above that. 400 tourism and hospitality journals. And all these journals publish more and more papers. So if you look at the volume that is published and compare that to a decade ago or 2 decades ago, it's a massive increase. Yes, we've also seen increases in other domains. But I would still think that our domain, tourism hospitality management, is particularly dynamic. We are also a younger discipline when you compare it to finance or marketing, right? Annals was founded, I think, in 1974, if I'm not mistaken, right? While Journal of Marketing was founded in 1924, I think, or 1927. So we are still a young discipline that is growing. And this is great. I love working in that discipline, but it also means that it's sometimes harder to keep an overview, what is now relevant and what has been published. So impact factors also rise and rise. It's massive, right? We have annals with 13 plus, tourism management almost 13 as an impact factor. These are massive. Right. My wife works in medicine. Of course, for her, they are still low impact factors because they have nature with 100 as an impact factor. But I can tell you in the social science, an impact factor of 12 or 13 is quite high. We have top journals in marketing that only have 4 or 5 as an impact factor. Right. So this is great, right? This is a great environment to be in. Right. So all good. What do you think?
It's good.
It's good, great. Let's continue like this.
It's good.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it is good, but right? It is good, but
quality.
Right. What I said already in 2020, while more and more papers are published in tourism journals, the number of original and courageous research remains considerably low. So yes, we see more papers, but do we necessarily see more novel papers or original papers? Or do we see more replications of existing studies, maybe another destination image study now on a different destination? Yes, we need such studies, but I wouldn't call them to be the most original studies. And this is from a publication in Journal of Travel Research. It was back in the days where Geoffrey Crouch was still the editor of Journal of Travel Research, and we had a discussion going back and forth about yeah, originality. What is originality? How have our publication criteria changed over the years? And then we decided to write this piece, which is actually a letter to the editor. And I'm not the only one saying this, right? So we also have Beritelli and Starodolnica saying already in 2016, more research, publishing more work in more journals is not necessarily equivalent to more relevant knowledge being created. Okay, so there are few critical voices here. So what is actually meant here? Well, it's this, right? When we look into publication criteria, just go to the submission to the author guidelines of Journal of Travel Research. You see these three criteria. Maybe sometimes it's not called relevance, sometimes it's called significance. But in a simplified world, these are the three, or maybe one of the three most important publication criteria, especially for the top journals. So we have relevance, meaning is it actually relevant and important to the readership of that journal? Who cares about what I'm doing here, right? I remember a discussion, wasn't that also involving, I think it was on TriNet, and some people talking about special interest tourism being too niche and that we should not research that. That is not my opinion, but that is what people talk about when they mean relevance or significant. Who actually cares about it? And then we have rigor. And rigor is very much about whether you adhere to the academic conventions in your research field in terms of method, in terms of theory use, theory application. And yes, many of the papers that I review, especially for the leading journals, they do not have their flaws in rigor, right? They're usually well executed. I can see that authors know their theory well. But the problem is more in originality. And when I talk to my PhD students, or when I also talk to other early career scholars, it's usually this criterion that is also difficult to grasp, right? And there is some tacit knowledge going on. So tacit knowledge is knowledge that maybe some more senior researchers have, because we have experienced it the hard way, what is originality, and we now have a feeling for what is an original research idea and what is not. It's often something hard to understand for early career scholars. And that was a bit my motivation when I wrote this piece, and also when I decided, okay, let's do this seminar on originality and research ideas. So
Florian, I have an opinion about this originality.
please,
You know what?
please.
You're teaching the international marketing and marketing theory for your students. As you know, the MIS, Management Information Systems, one of the very prestigious journal in MIS Quarterly. The MIS Quarterly, actually 2001, Annual Bhattacharjee, he published expectation and confirmation theory paper on website continuous usage. Actually, the theory coming from marketing discipline, which is in 1978, Oliver's satisfaction attitude change theory. So as far as I know, the MISQ are a bit behind from marketing, marketing bit behind from psychology and sociology. And psychology and sociology is a longer history than management. So like management actually is ahead of us. It is true. And however, the hospitality and tourism is behind from management, but as you see in the impact factor of analysis of tourism research and tourism management is very rocket sky impact factor. That means it'll be catch up that management, the originality, even though we are still behind. So what do you think about how much we are behind the gaps? About 10 years, 5 years? What do you think about that, your opinion?
Yes, good question. And I think I don't convey too much when saying that I'm actually working on a paper. Not exactly what you're saying, but going into that direction, because it's a very important point that you mentioned here. So thanks for bringing it up. So I will answer your question in a second, but just let me give you a little bit of background information. I think that business itself is a very applied domain. It's a very applied domain. And psychology is more basic research. So even in marketing, we draw a lot on psychology, especially the consumer research people. Right? So even here in that case, I can see marketing, also management, and tourism and hospitality, all being quite applied domains that in many cases draw on psychology. I just want to give you an example when we talk about management, right? Of course, management, you can say, yes, still ahead of tourism and hospitality. However, that gap has definitely been shrinking over the years. So maybe they are still, you say 5 or 10 years, maybe I would say 7 years, 7 years ahead. Okay, just diplomatic in the middle. But just to give you one example here, there's a theory that is one of the most used theories in management that is called social exchange theory, right? And there are papers in Journal of Management that have 15,000 citations, and they still use so and so much. And what all these people usually say in management is, oh, we're using this social exchange theory from social psychology. Now, when you then actually are social psychologists, they say, look, this is not really a theory. This is just a summary term for many thoughts. We would not even call it a theory. It's actually not well grounded at all. It's not a deep theory. And for some reason, management researchers decided many decades back that they use this theory and now call it social psychology theory. But we would not even say that this is social psychology and this is not even a deep theory. So they would then say, oh no, management is definitely behind. They're not even really using our theory. They are just in some cases just claiming they do, but they don't really do, right? And you see these gaps between disciplines everywhere, not only between psychology and management, but of course also management and tourism. In that sense, it's also hard to say, well, are they really behind or are they just applying our knowledge a little bit differently? And coming to tourism and hospitality, as I said, we are quite dynamic and we are running with way higher speed than most other business disciplines. That's what I can say. For example, if you compare it to marketing, marketing has its very traditional journals, but they're also quite set in what they're doing. They're also not multidisciplinary as much as we are. And I think this is one of the biggest strengths of tourism, that we are open to new streams, new ideas from geographers, from sociologists.
That's right.
And they all have in common this industry context of tourism and hospitality. So I consider this gap will be smaller and smaller over the years, but it's also in some sense a very natural process. You can compare it, for example, to supply chain management. Supply chain management is also a discipline that is taught more and more at business schools. It's also a relatively young discipline. And also in the beginning, the more traditional disciplines like mentioned, they've said, oh, are they behind us? Are they just applying our general management theory, because they're also called supply chain management? No, they are their own unit, and they became mature and more independent over the years. And now you see also their journals reaching impact factors of 12 or 13. So they're running like with the same speed. And I'm very optimistic that we will not only sustain our position, but actually become more mature further increasing the quality in our journals. And that's, of course, in the end, the reason why I have written this piece and why I want to do this seminar, because I think there is still room for us to grow. Sorry for this long answer, but I think it was a very interesting question you posed. Maybe we can talk a little bit more about it after that. Okay,
Yes.
then I move on. Good. Okay, so originality. We still don't know what that is, right? Maybe I can get a few opinions from the audience if you want. What is originality? A disclaimer: there are no right or wrong answers here. If you want to raise your voice, what is originality? Any idea from the audience?
Professor? Oh.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes. I think the originality for each field of study is well, there is a theory, and then there is the fundamental theory. But as you said, this kind of theory can be applied in differently to each field of the study by its characteristic, and to finding that kind of specific findings based on the study's characteristic by combining, applying the fundamental theory. I think that would be one of the contribution and originality.
Yeah. You gave one good, and I would fully agree, one very good example how we can achieve originality. Yes. I will come back to that later. Yeah, exactly, this strategy which I call bridging. Yeah. Any other ideas, opinion on what originality?
I think originality, especially when it comes to tourism, I think refers to the concept of offering authentic experiences to travelers. And so, I mean, by emphasizing originality in tourism, if we say destinations, for example, spots, so they can differentiate themselves from competitors, attract travelers seeking more authentic and enriching experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. I fully agree with you that such research topics can be originality. But what I meant here in terms of originality is not the originality in the destination, but the originality of the research itself that we do. Mostly of the research question of the research idea. For example, if I conduct a paper on the destination image of Copenhagen. I'm based in Copenhagen. I have figured that there is no paper on the destination image of Copenhagen, and I now do a study to examine why people go to Copenhagen through the destination image literature. Would that be original? You can argue, well, maybe it's relevant for the DMOs, like Wonderful Copenhagen, so the destination marketing organization. Maybe I also do it with rigor. But what do I contribute to theory in that sense? Do I advance existing literature on destination image just by applying it in a different context? Right. So advancement of theory is one assessment criteria of originality, for example. Right. I have written a piece in 2016 in this very don't want to say contested, but crowded area of destination image, where I try to make an original contribution. I'm coming back to that in a little bit. Okay, let's move on. We will discover the different facets of originality, right? So one takeaway already now is that originality comes with many faces, so to speak. There's not one type of originality, but many types of originality.
Yeah.
Okay. Now on the importance of originality. While original papers are very welcomed by most journals, the biggest concern of many journal editors in tourism is the low number of highly original research submitted to the respective journal. This is done by some of my colleagues in at the University of Surrey. Has anyone by coincidence joined the seminar by Kathy Sue on tourism management some time ago? Because she invited me together with Ellen Williams on a talk. To a talk on originality. So if you have been to that talk, some of this information might not be new. But if you have not, you can also watch that talk online on the YouTube channel of tourism management. Anyway, so this seems to be the biggest concern of many journal editors, right? A lack of highly original research. Right? What do I say together with my colleagues, Albert and Mike Sionas? If publication pressures increase and originality is the prime standard to publishing in top-tier journals, why do we see less and not more original research published? Shouldn't it go the other way around? Well, the thing is, apparently there are higher publication pressures now, right? You could secure an assistant professorship 10 years ago with a fraction of the publication that you need to do to secure that same position. Is that unfair? I don't know. That's what it is. We are now a very competitive domain, right? And you work at an excellent university, so I think you know what it takes, right? So we see maybe not more originality because people don't know what originality is, and maybe it's very hard to achieve. To be honest, it can take quite a long time to come up with a really good research idea, with a really original research idea. And I sometimes see people, not only early career scholars, also senior scholars, and I would not exclude myself, rushing to the writing and execution of the paper before really critically reflecting on, is it really interesting what I'm doing here? Would I be interested in such a study? Right? I'm coming back to that in a little bit. And when we quote also John Tribe, former professor at University of Surrey, former editor of of Annals of Tourism Research, he said, originality is perhaps the biggest challenge facing tourism researchers. And now 6 years later, I can say this is still 100% true what John wrote here. Okay, so
you know why I am wrapping it?
Sorry?
You know why I'm wrapping it? The quote from John Triver's the challenging facing tourism researchers.
Yeah.
Actually, you know, I'm contributing to smart tourism.
Yes.
And I made the theme of smart tourism 2013, and then finally published the 2015, which is a real original concept. However, John Triber critics the smart tourism is not original papers, is they copy the concept, something kind of a technology assisted tourism, and ICT, role of ICT support to tourism, which is very naive and absolutely is basic concept. But I didn't respond to the paper, but it's just the argument. And read his critics of smart tourism, appeared the Annals of Tourism Research. He addressed the importance of the human nature in tourism, which is quite true and a necessary one. So probably he dislikes something, the tourism too much go to the technology side.
Yeah.
And that's the game of kind of originality or something, a nature of tourism business and the human instinct and tourism sort of things. That's why I'm wrapping it.
Yeah, okay. Thanks for sharing this anecdote. So of course, originality truly lies in the eye of the beholder. And if you ask 10 tourism professors what originality is, you probably get 20 answers. 20 different answers, right? No, but tourism and originality comes in many types. And if you ask me personally, I always go by the theme that I think there are many clever people who have done many clever things, not in tourism, but in other domains. And it would just not be, I think, yeah, fruitful for our domain just to ignore that, right? We, in some cases, especially as we are applied, right? We don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time. We just don't need 100 new theories in tourism coming up every year. Of course, theory building is very important. There was a recent piece by Scott McCabe in the anniversary edition of Annals of Tourism Research, which I can wholeheartedly recommend. Scott just gave a talk about that in our last NES conference. So yeah, theory building is important. But sometimes if we have a great theory that matches the context very well, then bringing that into tourism, like smart tourism, is very original, right? That's just my opinion. But of course, it depends. And yeah, I'll move on. Good.
Okay.
Journal of Travel Research, right? I briefly mentioned it. These are the review criteria. So when I, as an editorial board member of JTR, review a manuscript, these are the criteria I look at. Is it relevant? Is it significant? Is it original? Is it rigorous? Is it articulate, right? Probably articulate, I would sometimes put it into rigorous, and sometimes I would merge relevance and significance. And then you see it's the same three criteria that you saw here, right? And the one that is, in my opinion, the main reason why papers are rejected is this, right? Original. The research must be original, new, and leading edge. Where a manuscript adds little to existing knowledge on the topic, JTR is not the right journal. Then JTR does not say, this is bad research. No, it's just not on the originality level that JTR expects, right? Which is then usually a hint for you to go to a lower ranked journal. But if you go to JTR, highly original. Same with Annals, same with tourism management. And to be honest, also with many other journals. I'm talking a lot about the big three, but this is not to be said that these are the only three, right? I just mentioned that for reasons of simplicity. So there are many very good journals that require you to have these criteria checked. But I just picked it because I also know this journal quite well, because I served on the editorial board here for many years. Okay, so yeah, originality seems to be important somehow. And what is originality now? And I don't want to bore you with definitions. No, I want to talk about what I think is the source of originality. Original paper is a paper that has a good research idea. And the research idea can be about a theory, it can be about a method, it can be about a context, it can be about a phenomenon, it can be about something you just observed yourself while being on holiday yourself. And you just ask yourself, why on earth is this phenomenon existing? And then you figure out no one has ever researched that. And then you have a very phenomenon-driven research question. And that's what I had with the coolness paper. I come back to that. So I hope at the end of my presentations, all the loose ends come together. But there are different approaches to a good research idea. And it matters, right? At Annals, we are now receiving around 1,500 submissions a year. And Sarah and I read each one, right? We're specifically looking for exciting, innovative, and courageous research ideas. This is what Scott McCabe has said on TriNet a few months ago when he reapplied. Wow, exciting, innovative, courageous ideas. That sounds very much like my paper that I've written in 2020, and I fully agree. I fully agree with Scott, right? So how do we get these courageous research ideas? That's the main question. Good. I've written this piece, for example, developing courageous research ideas. Maybe if you're interested in what I presented today, this is a good follow-up reading for you. Okay, so this is my answer to this question. How do we get courageous research ideas? The answer is this model. I call it the OBC. OBC stands for observe, it stands for bridge, and it stands for challenge. And these are 3 research procedures, and I say they are tacit because I feel that they are not often, let's say, taught in PhD programs, right? I also had research method courses when I did my PhD in Australia, but they were mostly about the method itself, quant and qualitative research, conceptual, but it was not about the method, how to start research, how to develop a good research idea. So this is a model that tries to make all these research idea generation procedures tangible and theory-based. So this is not something I just came up with. This is also in some regards a synthesis of research that has been conducted in areas in psychology and management, also in tourism, but also going as broad as nature and science, where I took in inspiration. Good. I first talk about these 3 big strategies, and then I talk about strategies that you can pull off when you use, for example, observe and bridging together, right? That's then a theory I call new problems require new theories. So I jump into that and then go back to the OBC model. Just for the record, don't feel pressure to use all of them at once. Often it's already enough to just go with one of these 3. But I can maybe not guarantee you, but I can almost ensure you that when you use these theories before you start your research project, you can be more confident that your research idea actually is interesting, it's exciting, and also catches the attention of the readership. Not only of academics, but also maybe of tourism and hospitality managers. Good. The first one, observe. That's pretty easy, right? Observation. We are researchers. So when you think about how research or how science came about, if you think about Isaac Newton, right? World famous physicist, about gravity. He observed the world, right? We sometimes have this metaphor of Newton's apple. How come that an apple drops from the tree to the ground? Oh, there's something like gravity. What is gravity, right? We start with observing the world and trying to understand a phenomenon in that world. That's pretty easy, isn't it? Right? And in observe the world, I distinguish between a couple of approaches. And the first approach is the outside-in approach. So what is this? It follows these very simple steps. You start by observing an interesting phenomenon in the world. So in the world means in the real world, right? It does not mean that you start by looking into tourism publications, right? Often early career scholars are told that we should find a research gap, which might be true, right? And then people start reading 100 journal articles on destination image. And then they try to find a gap within that literature. And then they say, oh, this is my gap. This is why my research is original, because I try to fill that gap with my research. All right. I'm not the biggest fan of that approach, to be honest. This one goes completely the other way around. Here, you don't even start with research. You start with observing the real world. For example, how come that more and more people avoid or resist tourism development? Like we see that now, tourism hate in the Balearic Islands, right? That people in Venice tell tourists, go home. We don't want you here. People in Barcelona do the same. This is a phenomenon we could observe in the world. And then we could apply it to tourism. Here it would be easy because it already is some sort of a tourism phenomenon, but it could even be a broader phenomenon. Think about in increasing racism or increasing xenophobia around the world. That is a bigger phenomenon than tourism is, right? And then you would think, okay, how can we apply that to the tourism world? So would there be something like xenophobia, just as an idea, in the tourism world? And then you would argue who is affected by the phenomenon and how. These are the 3 steps you would follow. And to give you an example, to make it more tangible, just take the coolness one, right? I go back to this one. What is an interesting phenomenon in the world? That people start talking more and more about coolness. For example, I once did a Google Ngram analysis, and that told me that nowadays, coolness is one of the most used descriptors in TripAdvisor reviews or on Google reviews or on Instagram posts. So people use cool all the time. Cool, 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 cool. But what actually is coolness? We don't really know. We know coolness when we see it, but it's a very hard to define and operationalize concept.
Okay.
And then I thought about, okay, does it matter for tourism? So I went to step number 2. Does it manifest in the tourism world? And yes, it does all the time. Whenever I talk to tourism managers in Copenhagen, they tell me, oh, Copenhagen is so attractive for all our tourists. Why? Oh yeah, because they think it's cool. It's a cool destination. Amsterdam is cool. New York is cool now again. And oh, wow, Seoul is cool, right? Okay, wait, you're all using this word, this buzzword cool, both the tourists and the tourism managers, but you cannot tell me what coolness means and how to create a cool city and how to measure that. Maybe that's a good opportunity for research, right? And that's how I came up with this paper.
Florian, this is my opinion about your concept, cool.
Please.
Actually, I wrote a paper which is appeared tourism management, and I measure the dependent variable as a cool, enjoyment, helpfulness sort of things. It's appeared from the Yelp. Yelp, in a certain period of time, they ask a reviewer to measure 3 sub-dimensions: cool, enjoyment, and helpfulness sort of things. And that time I discussed with my colleague and my students, what is a cool? And the people just sum up, sum down, and on the cool button. And suddenly, years later, cool button is disappeared from that measurement. But anyway, that time I discussed, what the heck is this cool? Cool is a definition or concept or just it's a kind of a, the Western guys say, it's cool. And then actually Yelp adopt the cool for their dependent variable. So now you're making great paper using of cool, and I just passing away the cool. What the heck is this? And wow, this is different result. What the hell?
Okay, thanks. That's great to hear, right? Telling us that it should really matter, and people, as a gentleman, people use the word cool all the time, but what do they really mean by it?
Yeah.
And that's important for us as researchers, right? Because only if we know what makes something cool, so only if we understand the DNA of coolness, can also provide businesses with managerial implications, right? So just also knowing that my city is cool or uncool is also not enough. Actively manage coolness. There you have to understand, okay, why is it cool or why is it not cool anymore, right? And I really tried to get to that level of detail, not only measuring coolness. Oh yeah, Copenhagen is 5.5 out of 7 on the ordinal scale cool, and Dubai is only 3.5. that does not help so much. I have to understand, right? That's why I said understanding destination coolness and the dimensions as a drivers. And then, of course, reviewers came back saying, yes, great paper, but maybe if you ask a tourist from Asia, from Korea, and you ask a tourist from the US, and they both say Copenhagen is cool, maybe they do completely different things with that. So we are now, of course, working on follow-up studies to see whether the cross-cultural meaning of coolness actually matters, right? So the good thing when you start such a research agenda in that sense is there are so many follow-up papers, right? And this is why I think you should really spend time on finding a good research idea, because if you have it, you can probably not pull out just one paper, but the idea is rich enough. Not that I wanted it, but just during the review process, right? So many ideas came up, right? And you can see this is a single author paper. It's not because I don't want to work with other people. Quite the opposite. I actually enjoy working with other people, and this one was
single author.
yeah, but here I struggled a bit, because I talked to people and they told me, look, Florian, coolness is not academic. There's a reason why it has not been researched. Coolness this is not an academic term. Don't touch it. You will get in trouble, right? So that's why I said, okay, I go ahead myself. I've read as a single author. So sometimes, of course, it is a bit more daring, right? Because here I could only draw on 2 or 3 papers. There's one paper of my colleague from University of Michigan. He has also worked on coolness, on cool brands. But apart from that, there was nothing, right? So it was pretty blank slate what to write in the literature review. I had to do exploratory qualitative research, followed by a number of quantitative papers. So of course such papers are a bit more risky because they are open-ended, but they are really fun to work on, and they can pave the way for a whole research agenda, I would say. Yeah. And yeah, it's also easy to convince managers that it matters, because you don't have to explain to them what you research. You just tell them, I'm researching what makes cities cool, and they're like, oh, that's important for us, right?
Yes,
this is also the beauty of some of these ideas. If you observe the world and you get your idea from the world, then you don't have to tell the world what the idea is, because they already know, because they can also observe it, right? That's a bit.
What was the time that 2012, 21, 22?
That's 21.
21. There was the time you are associate professor.
Yes.
Wow. How you get so confidence about the new concept and the title with a single author? Actually, that associate professor is still time to survive in your discipline and the school.
Yeah. Good question. Yeah, actually, on one hand, I also think that being associate professor is also a time where you have to demonstrate.
Yes. Demonstrate.
Not only that you can lead projects with as first author, but also maybe just pulling everything off yourself. So it's also the time of showing independence in that sense more than. So I also have another single author paper on sex tourism. No one wanted to work with me on sex tourism, so I had to do that myself as well. Yeah.
Great.
But, it was also during COVID, to be honest, right? When I started working on it, where we were all locked into our homes. So I felt, okay, now I just write that paper myself. So maybe that also helped. I don't know.
Yes, good.
Okay, so that was the first, right? It's a phenomenon in the world. We look into applying it to the tourism world. Does it matter? And who is affected by it, right? Now, the second approach is the inside-out approach. So here we go the other way around. here we try to observe an interesting phenomenon in the tourism world. So we start with our small industry. Actually, it's not that small, right? But it's only one part of the world we observe. Then we scrutinize whether it also manifests in the world. So we go the other way around here. And then we argue who is affected by the phenomenon and how. So quite the same, but we just call it inside out, going the other way around. And I give you an example of that. And it's this paper that we have published in 2023 in JTR, and it's about solidarity. So what has happened here? And I go back to this one, so it's easy for you to understand how I use that approach. I observed a phenomenon in our tourism world. And what phenomenon was that? It was that people, during the pandemic, they started to declare solidarity. For example, there were people saying, my favorite pub is closed. They said that on Instagram or on Facebook saying, but I still want to support it. So I order takeaway from that restaurant because otherwise it won't survive. Or there were people writing to hotels saying, I'm very sorry that you're closed under lockdown, but I still make my booking now. And as soon as you open again, I will come. So there was some solidarity, even from politicians, right? In Germany, German politics, they donate, I don't want to say donated, but they spend so much money on emergency programs for the hospitality and tourism industry to help them survive. And there was a sentiment in the media and among people, okay, we really have to help the suffering industry. And I found that quite remarkable because in the end, this is a for-profit business. We're not talking about an NGO that we're donating money to. We're talking about a for-profit business that exists for making money. At least that is the main reason why they exist, right? So why should we be solidary towards that? And why haven't we been solidary, let's say, towards the car industry when they struggled? Why wasn't there so much solidarity when the car industry in Detroit went down and Chrysler went into struggles? Why so much solidarity now with tourism and hospitality during COVID? Sorry for elaborating it in so much detail, but this is really the important thing, right? That you get to such a question. And then I thought, well, that is something that I don't have an answer to, and no one has an answer to. I want to understand this. Why do tourists stand by the tourism industry? Here it's a more open question. And yes, I want to examine solidarity during and after a pandemic. So this is also more longitudinal study. We have collected data during the pandemic and also some sort after the first and second wave of the pandemic. So I think in 2020 and 2022. And what's important here is this is not only in the tourism world. Solidarity towards an industry might happen not only in tourism, but it might also happen in many other industries. For example, solidarity towards the media industry. There was solidarity towards the film industry in Hollywood, and people said, well, we need our Netflix series and we have to pay higher wages for all the actors. And you see this solidarity towards industries, not only in tourism, but tourism really kicked it off, right? And that's why I could then publish this piece saying, yes, tourism is the focus. That's why we went for JTR. But look, it's really relevant for all kinds of industries that might experience solidarity in the future, not only in the context of pandemic, but also in a different context, right? And that is one example of this inside-out approach. Now, a little warning, okay? The thing is, when you start with a phenomenon, you still have to find theory to explain that phenomenon. And this is tricky because it's very likely that examining this phenomenon is outside of your current expertise, right? Often we as researchers have a toolbox of both theories and methods. And then we do research within this realm of theory and within the realm of method. When you start with a phenomenon, the best theory and method to answer that phenomenon might not be the theory and method you have expertise in. And this is tricky, especially for an early career scholar, right? So what do I recommend in this? So talking about number 1 and 2, if you don't have expertise in that, you have 2 options, right? You either develop your expertise in that area. That's what I did with evolutionary psychology. I'm not a trained biologist, but I just was so fascinated by it and found so many phenomena I wanted to examine through evolutionary psychology that I took biology courses in ecology, in evolution. I'm not a biologist, right? I'm a social scientist, but I developed that expertise. And the second option would be to find co-authors who have expertise in that area, right? And the third warning that I want to mention here is phenomenological singularity. That's a fancy word, right? So what does it mean?
Real fancy.
Kind of, right?
What the hell is this? What the hell is this? Phenomenological singularity.
Phenomenological singularity is a trap in the sense that you find a phenomenon that at first glance sounds very great, but then you figure out, oh, it's actually just a very small thing. Right? So it only exists in this particular context and doesn't exist outside it. For example, just figuring out that a very small group of people have this particular attitude and that could manifest in this tourist behavior. But if you only figure that this group of people is close to 100 people around the world, it might be a phenomenological singularity. So you might lack what? Maybe not originality, but relevance, significance. People don't care about it because it's just too exotic in that sense. Yeah. And I just rejected a paper in a journal, and my main reason for rejecting that paper was actually phenomenological singularity. So I said, well, you have an interesting idea here. You have observed a phenomenon, but I don't think it's more than a very exotic, very small niche that you're after, right? And then when you compare that to solidarity during a pandemic, you can see, well, the one is really big, xenophobia is really big, but yours is like really, really small. I don't want to say what it was about, but it was just so super niche. It was a phenomenon, but I could not see that it's relevant for a broader audience in their respective journal. So be aware of these 3 potential traps. Should you still do it? Yes, you should, because the rewards can be quite high, right?
As far as I understanding, the keyword come across to my mind. Phenomenon, I understand it, what it means, and the concept, phenomenon. And the nomological is a logical connection, causality and result, a nomological connection.
Yes.
So phenomenon and nomological, and I understanding the singularity is a surpassing, like artificial intelligence surpassing human intelligence. That is a singularity.
Yes.
So you combine the 3 concepts, phenomenal and nomological and singularity.
Yes.
Right? Is that right?
Yes. However, here the word phenomenological stems from a philosophical background. It was Hegel, one of the philosophers coming from, he has actually developed this, I don't want to say research study, but the stream of phenomenology. So that's more where I come from. So it's more a philosophical term here.
Okay, I see. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's why I always have to explain it. But of course, the phenomenology of something is how it manifests in the real world. So you can actually say in that sense, it's an epistemological approach. Phenomenology is right. But I want to go into this philosophy of research thing. But that's more where I come from with this. So it's more a philosophy term, at least for me.
But anyway, as a full professor, and it's time to create new concept derived from the other, research background, such as philosophy, sociology, psychology, and then sort of things, which is quite related to human business and human being and the nature. Actually, the tourism business and hospitality business is a quite center of human, nature. So we need to create something unique, the phenomenon, from my side.
Absolutely.
I agree with you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what I often tell colleagues who do not work in tourism hospitality is this in itself is such a unique phenomenon. When I think about traditional marketing, it's mostly like a company selling products to a consumer. In tourism hospitality, we have so many more variables, so many more stakeholders playing a role here. The service employees, the companies behind them, the tourists interacting. So this just paves the way for many unique phenomena in that sense. Yes.
Yeah.
Good. All right. So much about observe. Now I want to talk about and I'm good on time. I want to talk about bridging, right? What is bridging? And once I explain that, I will also explain the strategy number 4 already to you, the new problems for cognitive theories. So first, what is bridging? Bridging is pretty easy. Bridging means bridge disciplines. Okay. What is it? There's a nice publication by APA, so the biggest psychology association. Joyerman and Lange, they have published in 2015 a piece on how to publish high-quality research. And they are big fans of, they don't call it bridging, but it's about the intentional effort to draw on the human, theoretical, methodological, and/or empirical resources of a related discipline to shed new light on one's own discipline. Now, this is what the psychologists are saying. APA, they're saying we should do more of this. And Jomo, we just discussed that psychology is already very basic, very old, very mature. And they even want their researchers to bridge with other disciplines. Then we, as pretty applied business domain, probably should do it with even more motivation, bridging, because many clever people work in other disciplines, be it psychology, be it geography, medicine, physics, whatever. And there is so much leverage for us to understand what have they done and how can that help us in tourism hospitality to advance our discipline.
Yes.
And you now also see more and more people outside of tourism citing tourism journals, citing tourism papers. And this is also a sign of becoming a more mature domain. 20 years ago, there's a paper by Geoffrey Crouch and Rick Perdue, two former editors of JTR, right? And they have written a piece about analyzing how much tourism is cited outside of tourism. And they compare it. And in the old days, in the 80s and even 90s, tourism was more of a silo. So, and nowadays, there are so many papers in marketing management, even going further than that, citing tourism. So they already start bridging tourism to their own discipline. and we have to get better at bridging other disciplines, even as distant as I said, biology with tourism. That's what this is about. So, and the good thing is you can have a very elegant approach to idea generation, because often when you observe a new phenomenon, it's very common that tourism does not have theories appropriate to explain that new phenomenon, because these theories were developed based on other phenomena in their tourism. So if we now look at a new phenomenon, we might also have to look at new theories to explain that phenomenon, right? And that's why I say, okay, a new problem requires a new theory. And by new theory, I don't mean brand new, but I mean, for example, coming from a different discipline, bridging that. And that's then super elegant. And then you go to the journal and you say, my paper is original because it's a new phenomenon and it's a new theory. And I bring that together. Bam. This is a really strong argument for why your research is original, isn't it? So how does it work exactly, right? I always try to have these guidelines to make it easy for you to use. So first is, and this is already a bit tricky, read beyond your discipline. Now you tell me, Florian, I'm already busy enough. My supervisor puts so many tasks on my desk. I have to read so many papers in TM and annals and whatever. How should I find time to read beyond my discipline? And then I tell you, look, don't read everything. But for example, just skim through the recent publications in Nature and Science, for example. Just start big. And I do this myself. I also find it entertaining, just in the evening, just seeing, okay, what has been published in Nature Human Behavior. This is a relatively new journal, already has an impact factor of 30, right? It's a sub-journal of Nature with an impact factor of 30. And they sometimes have great theories coming from, I don't know, anthropology, always about human behavior, right? And tourism is about human behavior. I'm also working as a psychologist, which is about explaining human behavior. So I read beyond that, beyond my discipline. Why is that important? It gets me out of my comfort zone, right? I sometimes feel that our disciplines really discipline us, also in a negative way. So we start reproducing our own ideas, our own theories again and again. And then we might reach a point where we don't critically reflect on what has been done. And you can see that that this is really prevalent in more traditional disciplines, right? That are also older. They just often reproduce the same theories that they have used for 2 decades. And if you come in with a new theory, they might be quite critical because you're kind of going against the norm. But it is important. That's how we move forward as a discipline, right? So don't let your discipline you. Read beyond it. Get out of your comfort. And it's really worth it. Now, second, once you done that, then identify theories, and can be mindsets, can be ideas that can better or differently explain a tourism phenomenon than existing theories, right? That's why I say new problems require new theories. There might be a theory on, I don't know, tourist-resident interaction. Oh, now you read something coming from biology, and you think, oh, that is a different way to look at tourist-resident interactions. And then you write a piece exactly on that and bring that new theory into tourism to advance research on tourist-resident interaction.
That's right.
For example. And that's what I then mean with recontextualization. So the challenge here is to really identify theories that you can recontextualize, so put into the context of tourism and hospitality.
Yes, right.
I hope that makes sense.
Yes.
Let me illustrate that, because I think a bunch of my publications are the result of bridging the world. So all these research is based on biology.
Oh, great,
Right?
great. Wow.
It's, for example, if you look at this piece, it's about the COVID-19 tourist psyche, the evolutionary tourism paradigm. What has happened during COVID? During COVID, we were all faced with a threat of contracting COVID. No one knew how harmful COVID was. People died from COVID, and people were really anxious. Really anxious. Some people actually had mortality salience, right? They really thought they would die, which is very normal, I say, because pathogens and viruses have been a very realistic threat to our life for most of our past. We sometimes think that we have always been living the way we do now, but it has only been for the last 100, 200, maybe the last 1,000, 2,000 years that we are living in the civilization we are living now. Before that, we had thousands and hundreds of thousands of years of evolution where we could easily be killed by flu. There was no medicine. And our brains are still wired in that way, that once there is a pathogen threat, the so-called behavioral immune system is activated. Now you ask me what this has to do with tourism. Well, first of all, the behavioral immune system is biology. So that's a biology theory. But if we want to understand how people behave during the pandemic, how tourists decide to go abroad or not, are they risk-averse or risk-taking when booking a holiday in 2021? We have to understand how their brain works when faced with a virus. And that's where biology has the answer. And that's exactly what this paper is about. So just going back here, yes, there are theories and mindsets that can better explain a tourism phenomenon than existing theories. And that's what this paper is about.
Wow.
This is a paper called The Xenophobic Tourist. This came out of my PhD, right? About xenophobia. I mentioned that before. So xenophobia was more in the strategy 4. A new phenomenon requires a new theory. This is the sex tourism paper. There has been a lot of research on sex tourism. But they all come from a more anthropology or sociology point of view. But I said, well, sex is very much instinct driven, isn't it?
Yes.
I don't want to limit it, but I say there's a complementary perspective that we have to look at to fully understand why people engage in sex tourism. And then I wrote this piece. Once again, no one wanted to write with me, so it's a single author. What can I do? Sex tourism, maybe it's a bit of an exotic.
Invite me.
Right? So just to give you an idea, right? I decided some years back to develop an expertise in biology. And that's why I do research. And there's a colleague of mine. I think he's from Korea. Join Kyun Kim from Auckland. Could that be? He's from New Zealand.
The guy is here, Jung Kim. Look, hey, say hello to him.
Yes, that's him. Yeah. Yeah. He has also.
He recommended you to inviting this seminar.
Okay. Right. I respect him a lot, also for his research in evolutionary psychology. Okay, interesting. Okay.
This is a great platform. You are a great researcher. Join this platform from New Zealand, from Denmark, and Korea. So this is a fantastic, research platform, and I'm going to develop further.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. I don't know.
Yeah, he strongly recommend you.
Okay, good. That makes sense. So yeah, a lot of great, really, really exciting research based on evolutionary psychology, right? Okay. The third one is challenge, and then I'm done, and then we also have time for questions. So challenge. What is a challenge? Challenge assumptions and theories. this is tricky, right? Shouldn't we just stick to what we know? Yeah, maybe that's the easy way. But if you really want to create original research ideas, you sometimes have to disrupt your own discipline. So how do you do it? Or what is it, first and foremost? It's the opposite of gap spotting, right? I mentioned gap spotting before. This is a paper Alvesson and Sandberg, two professors from Sweden, published, I think, in the Academy of Management journal. And we should not try to fit our paper into existing theory. That's what they say, it's gap spotting. But we should try to challenge assumptions and theories to some extent. Okay. The good thing is it can directly advance theory in tourism, right? If you challenge assumptions and theories that are prevalent in our field, it's pretty obvious what your contribution is. Advancing theory. Okay. And it addresses the need for critical thinking in tourism. Here I cite Tribe, 2008. But there are many other people, especially also editors, that say, well, we need more critical papers. We don't need papers that swallow everything that has been said. We need papers that also start with a critical reflection on what has been done. And maybe some things were really good once they were published 20 years ago, but maybe it's time for revising them, right? And that is what challenge is about. So how exactly does it work? It works with identify central assumptions in your research field. And this is tricky. Some of these assumptions are so obvious and so taken for granted for us that we almost consider them as laws. We don't question them because from first year bachelor, we hear that they are true. Maybe they are, but maybe they do not reflect more recent developments. Let's say in the digitalization of tourism, right? That could be true. Then we critically evaluate these as assumptions. Then we develop alternative assumptions. And then we engage both in a conceptual and empirical validation of alternative assumptions. So why is this so important? When you say that an existing theory has to be revised, hardly anyone will believe you if you don't have empirical support for that. Usually such papers cannot be written in a conceptual way. I sometimes get good conceptual pieces as reviewer that challenge existing theories and assumptions. But this is a daring move that I usually find very good, and I'm very open to such papers as a reviewer. However, I would need to see empirical validations in such papers. And I just want to give you an example of what this challenge could be. It could be this piece. I'm still not sure whether this was a clever move, but this was my first author paper ever that I published. It's my first paper from my PhD. Mm. And I decided to go into the very crowded and contested area of destination image. Pretty much saying that many people work on destination image, but there are many conflicting views, and I disagree with a lot what they do. This is maybe not the best you should do as a PhD student, but I did that, and it really paid out. So I'm still happy about the comments that I got from the reviewers in that annals, because I think one reviewer said in the first round, this is one of the most daring submissions I have read in years in Annals of Tourism Research. And when you get such a comment from the reviewer, then you know, okay, they appreciate that you're daring and trying to challenge it. But how has it worked in this paper? Because it has a very strong conceptual basis, and it has also a multi-study empirical part, two qualitative studies, and I think 3 quantitative studies. And we had to have this empirical support to convince authors that we have to change something in the destination image literature. As you know, destination image is one of the biggest research topics. Their papers, McCleary and Balolo and McCleary in 1991 cited thousands and thousands of times, very influential papers, very good papers, but I thought it was time to renew it, because we did not only change the theory, but also the methodology. So we ticked both points. We said there are some theories that could be improved, and also the methodology that has to be improved. And that's why Arnold took it in the end. Okay. Clash of theories is, and then I'm done actually, I think. Clash of theories, just to highlight that one, that would be an approach that you use when you bridge and challenge. So you take a theory coming from a different discipline and you pit it against a theory from tourism, saying our tourism theory says this is true, and then I say, oh, biology says this is wrong. And then I'm in a quite strong position, because it's not me going against what our tourism researchers have done, but saying, oh, look, what's going on here? Clever people said this, other clever people said that. Let's see how this can help us advancing theory in tourism. And that's why I call that the clash of theories. And then the last one I have is theory disconfirmation through real world phenomena. Here I would say our assumption in tourism is this, but look, I observed something in the world that contradicts this theory. And then I say, okay, let's disconfirm theory through what we have observed. And that's then a very elegant way for this strategy number 7. And if you're doing extremely well, I have not achieved this, or maybe in 1 or 2 papers, you can also merge all 3 of them, and then you land in the golden quadrant. And I think that's it. This was just an example for the clash of theories, where I said, okay, sociology and anthropology said this about sex tourism, biology said that. So I put them together here, right? We have a follow-up paper under review, because we were also, I wouldn't say criticized, but there were also some misunderstandings. So be prepared when you bring something completely new into a domain. There might also be people saying, oh, but is that really true? I don't think this is true, but this is what we want. This is what academic discourse should be about, right? You don't want to write a paper where everybody says, yes, but not more, right? You want discussion. You want people getting interested in what you do. And clash of theories is a good strategy to create interest also among the academic community.
Sure.
Thank you very much, or as I would say in Danish, mange tak, for your attention. And I think we have enough time for questions and a discussion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Florian Kock. And I'm happy to see J.K. Kim here from New Zealand. You guys say hello to each other. One guy strongly recommend the Professor Florian Kock is one of the leading researcher in tourism field, and you should invite him to this seminar. And he attending this seminar for listening your presentation. Well, what do you think of J.K. Kim?
Hi, how are you? Hi, Florian. How are you?
Hi, good seeing you again. We once met in person in Melbourne, right?
Oh yeah, briefly, yeah. And then we already
long time ago.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, Florian, if you receive certain money from Professor Gu, okay, 30% is belong to me, okay? Because I recommend you. This is the Korean system. No, okay. Actually, okay. Yeah.
15%.
So, yeah. Actually, okay. I was just so impressed with your research. And
yes,
today, I also, I'm impressed again for your abstract knowledge regarding how we can conduct the research. So, wow, I mean, you make me, a little bit,
nervous,
stressful. Stressful. And wow, the professor
I got
did really,
well.
good job. And what did I did so far, okay? So I have one question for you. It looks like that as a researcher, you published a certain empirical paper as well as a certain conceptual paper or a certain, meta-knowledge regarding how we conduct research. So can you share your secret what do you do? Okay, I mean, to a good research, okay, equally good between empirical part as well as the theoretical part. So can you share certain or certain secret practice or exercise? I don't know. Okay, so can you share that?
Yeah,
Three, four.
I'm ready to note.
Sorry?
I'm ready to note.
Okay, thank you. In fact, when I wrote this piece about the OBC model, my motivation was already to share some of these strategies I use. I have to say that I really spend a lot of time on this idea generation stage. It might now looks a bit, oh, he has published this, he has published that. But every idea that you see published in one of the papers probably equals 20 ideas that I have not pursued, that are all in the drawer. And I think what I became, I don't want to say good at, but what I learned over the years is really spending enough time on flipping your ideas around from every side before going beyond this conceptual stage.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is what I really have to do, because my most scarce resource is time. It's not money, it's time. I only have this limited time. So I have to be really sure that once I start working on an idea, I dedicate 150% to it, do the best possible job, and maximize my chances to get it published on the highest level. And I think I would not be able to do this if I went with, let's say, okay ideas. So whenever I have a concern about one of my research ideas, it lands in the drawer. There are probably 50, 60 ideas that I thought at the beginning are great ideas, but the more I thought about them, the more concerns actually arise. So being super picky about what research idea you pursue, I think I know it's a very strategic advice, but it really helped me a lot. And that's exactly why I have then started writing this paper. Because this paper, at least for me, was also a self-reflection. Okay, how do I go about developing research ideas? And if it worked for me, and hopefully you could see that I think almost all of my papers are based on one of these idea generation approaches that I outlined. And when I do it, and then at the same time when I'm super selective, then the time I spent, it's definitely worth it. Maybe two small additional things that could maybe, I don't think they are secrets, but two things you have to be very aware of is first is that you don't spread yourself too thin. What is not possible is that for every paper you develop a new expertise. So you say, for paper number 1, I become an expert in evolution. For paper number 2, I become an expert in, I don't know, embodiment and sociology. That's not possible. You have to develop your toolbox, your profile. You also want to be known for something. And then, of course, you have to pick, in the best case, a theory that is so powerful, so versatile, that you can also apply it in more than one paper, right? Otherwise, you might have one great paper, but you cannot achieve the level of productivity, because getting or developing this expertise in one area, that can easily take a couple of years, and then you get better and better at that, right? So that is one thing. Don't spread yourself too thin. And then, of course, the second thing is also don't fall for the tempting papers. What do I mean by the tempting papers? The tempting papers are papers where you, for some reason, have access to data, and then it's about, oh, what research idea could I develop to use that data? I think we all have these papers. I also have these papers. But usually these are not my best papers. And sometimes you feel, oh, it's tempting to do this, it's tempting to do that. So be super picky, always reflect on that. Maybe as a PhD student, you might feel you don't have that flexibility, but once you become more senior, the more picky you can get. And don't go for the easy, tempting papers, right? In the end, you also want to do something that you're intrinsically motivated, and that's usually when you also start with a research idea. I'm usually best with the papers where I really own the research idea, right? Where I really say 100% that I love this topic. And once you love that topic, you will work on it extra hours. You will get up late in the night to finish the introduction or do this or do that, right? Because you really burn for the topic, right? And you can only do that if you truly believe in the research idea you're following. If you don't believe in it, how should other people believe in it, right? That's usually then a red flag that you should not continue with that. Sorry for the long answer, but I think it was a
it's worthwhile to listen. It's very good for me. Not good for PhD student or early scholar. It's good for full professor.
Yeah. Of course, some of the advices I give, I am very aware that they might sometimes clash with the reality of the PhD students. And I also still remember how it was as a PhD student. But I think it's still good to have this ambitious goal in mind. And sometimes you reach it, sometimes you don't, but have it in mind.
Okay.
Hope I could answer your question.
Okay, we have 30 minutes left. Students, feel free to ask him about whatever you want to listen from him. Don't hesitate. It's your only chance. Okay, this is a very good Korean etiquette. Just go ahead.
Professor, I have a small question for you. Recently, many researchers have emphasized the importance of external validation in research research and the application of new methodologies, such as the use of machine learning and deep learning technique to conduct the mixed or multi-method research is increasing. So my question is, considering this trend, I would like to know your thought on learning advanced methodology as a graduate student.
Yeah. Okay, if I understood correctly, whether such methodology should be extended and whether that also in itself can pose an original research. Yes. Yeah, I have not actually mentioned that as an example, but of course, method-driven research can be highly original. Of course, keep in mind that the method should not determine your research question, but the research question should determine your method. However, I have written one piece in tourism management that is a pure method contribution, right? You can say it was in a challenge, but challenging the method, not the theory we are using. And there are a couple of other pieces. For example, if you take the work of my co-author Albert Assaf, he's very excellent in quantitative methods, right? He's a trained economist in that sense. And many of his original research is a methodological contribution. So if you now pick another methodological angle that you also see is underrepresented, and you can convincingly outline how this can advance the tourism research or hospitality research, that is an excellent original contribution based on methodology. This paper on the tourism solidarity that I mentioned, right? Industry solidarity, the JTR that I put on one of the slides. If you look into that paper and you look into the introduction, we actually frame it as making an original contribution both to theory and methodology, because we also apply a new non-parametric Bayesian estimation model in that. So we tried actually to have multiple of original contributions here. But if it's strong enough, it can very well be original based on your methodology. So what you just outlined actually sounds like it has that potential. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, good. That's a very good question. Actually, external validity these days is so considerably people concerned. So adding another methodology to the original methodology and proven to the hypothesis and depend the hypothesis by another data-driven method,
Yes.
which is quite kind of trendy these days.
Yes. Yes, yes, it is. It is. Maybe I can say a little bit about that. When for example, if you take that paper on JTR on sex tourism, study number 1 is about external validation. To be honest, I go the other way. Usually, you would think that you develop something in a questionnaire in the lab, and then you have a follow-up study to also show that there's external validation. What you see now in many many psychology journals is that actually study number 1 is the external validation, in the sense that they often have a correlational design based on the secondary data. So in my case, I used demographic variables from the statistics office about a certain area in Germany, and I correlated that with Google search results that I could track down to the postcode of the specific areas. And then I had a correlational design, and according to that correlation, then there was already external validation that something is going on. And then I tried to turn that into a more causal design, experimental design, to see what is actually going on here. And the good thing about that is that if you have the external validation as the last study, often reviewers have this question of, oh, is it real? I need this external validation. So I tend to have that in my first study more as a correlational design now, based on secondary paper data. But it's just one way of doing it. There are many methodologies, of course, to document external validity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question.
I will try to provide a brief answer, but but are there any more questions? Don't be afraid.
They are scary.
It's great, Shulman, that you could. We were more than 40 people in the meeting. It's great to see that you have so many early career scholars joining.
Okay. If you not have any further question from student side, I will ask another question from my side. J.K. Kim, he is a super expert of survey experimental design. And Florian Koch, he is a super expert of idea generation, very unique position on tourism and hospitality. Actually, is your both side is if as a top tier level the researchers, what do you think about these days that the era of AI in almost the field and how we can further progress based on our existing theory and phenomenon with AI? I want to ask you, both of you about it.
Okay, I go first. I think given the role that AI plays and will play in tourism and hospitality. I think what we really need to move towards in our research is more research about the potential transformational role that AI plays. I see the vast majority of papers on AI in tourism, hospitality, and digitalization that have published are more about how we can become more efficient, how we become more effective, how we can do the same things that we're doing now differently, better, at lower cost and whatsoever. That is not transformational. I see that most of the research is more on that descriptive level. And what we need more research on examining how AI will make tourism differently in the future. Not only more efficient, faster, more authentic, but how can it be transformational? And the problem here, of course, is there are very few theories that exist. There's a bit of research by people like Eric Brynjolfsson from MIT, and some of these pioneering people. And I think we should bridge right a bit more of their research they are doing to understand the role of AI better. That would be my short take on it. Sorry if it was too long.
JK.
Okay, yeah. Before I answer the question, everyone, you know that there is just, I mean, historical match between AlphaGo versus the Saddle-Lee in the play named Go. So Florian, do you know the match? So that's the singularity in terms of Go. So after that, no human won against the AI. Nowadays, whenever we saw the international match, everyone talk about how this person mimic AI recommendation. In that world, okay, definitely the AI is much superior than human. It looks like the human is just slave for the AI, okay? So, but that what you call play game, the task object is very clear. And some of tourism industry, for example, if we want to know certain information, AI is the best source, right? Rather than human expert or OTA, blah, blah. But still, okay, I believe that in tourism, and we have very unique phenomena and related theory exists. So AI could not, okay, reach that field. So I think this is very fortunate, okay? If we are in the industry of Go, we should, okay, I mean, put our effort to mimic the AI, but in tourism industry, totally different, okay? And then another aspect is AI is just a tool, but nowadays I really, okay, enjoy the AI. For example, my English is not good, but, and yeah, to be honest, okay? And then whenever, okay, I mean, make a certain sentence, I directly copy and paste to the ChatGPT proofread professionally.
So
it increases a lot of my what you call work, efficiency. Even, okay, when I contacted, for example, certain foreign hotel manager, if I contact them with my poor English, their response is usually low. But nowadays, I just check the ChatGPT and send them. I really, okay, pretend that I'm real native English speakers. So I got the right treatment. So anyway, I really enjoyed, okay. I hope, okay, we can enjoy the AI. That is my point. Yeah.
So definitely the capacity of AI and the overcome the language barriers and like such kind of J.K. Kim and me myself as a second language speaker, Florian is a second language speaker. Anyway, is actually AI can give it a chance to more creative can be actualized in operation level using of language tool, and it's a fantastic chance to us actually. So anyway, its time is almost done, but I want to the Professor Florian Kock one last address for our students and master degree student, PhD student. And in terms of your Copenhagen perspective, in terms of your full perspective, in terms of your business and tourism perspective, and whatever.
Unfortunately, I really have to run because my meeting now starts at 10 a.m. I'm sorry because I'm hosting that one and it starts already now. And the editor of tourism management is waiting.
Oh,
we have.
They will wait for you.
I'm happy to answer that in writing if that's okay, Jomo.
Oh, no problem. But you should go. And I'm very happy to meet you in advance and virtual. And I look forward to see you in the physical face-to-face.
It was a real honor. Thank you very much. It was great. Thanks also for the great question. And see you soon and hopefully in person. Bye.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Steven, thank you very much. Look forward to see you. Next week is Sarah Donica. Okay, look forward to see her presentation. She is editor of the NR's Tourism Research, and is one of the very influential professor and researcher in our field. So everybody welcome and then preparing good questions for her. Good, thank you. Good night.
Thank you.